Hi everyone, a very warm welcome back to MEC-TEC. As you can see, we are back on the workbench today and we are going to be continuing on with the Reliant engine build. We've hopefully got all the parts now to carry on and get this thing actually built and rotating, and well, I don't know about in this video, but fingers crossed we'll get it started at some point. Now, one thing I do want to cover first of all, a couple of people on Facebook messaged me after looking at the video and said that the liners should sit very slightly proud between, I think, 3 and a 6 thou above the height of the engine block. This is obviously so that the firings on the head gasket seal properly. So that is going to be the first thing we're going to check to make sure that I actually have got this right. It's going to be more by luck than judgment, if I'm honest. So let me grab the camera and we'll do that first of all and see what we got. And hopefully, fingers crossed, it'll be within spec. Let's crack on. Rightio, as you can see, obviously we've got our liners in there. Now I've put the right feeler gauges. I've got all this is the only thing I can measure it with because it's the only thing I've got obviously that's measured in thou. Now this is a 6 thou obviously gauge, which is the maximum it can be, and putting it up to the edge of that, I don't know if you can see that on camera, I would say that somehow or another I've managed to get those spots on what they should be, and they are the same all the way around. It lines up. I don't know if you can really see it on camera, but it does. If you push that down there, it shows that it's level with that, and they are all the same. I've checked them off camera because I was curious to know, and they are all 6 thou, which is the maximum. So I'm pretty pleased that, purely by luck, I'm not going to lie, these are in spec. So thank you to the two guys who told me about this. I can't remember your names off the top of my head. I can't remember them off the top of my head, but thank you for letting me know that information, because obviously I didn't know that, and looking at it I think I might have got away with it, so that's quite handy. So excuse me, that means we can carry on obviously putting things back in the block. First thing I'm going to do, I think, is probably get the front engine plate on this side, which will allow us to get the camshaft in, and I can bolt the clamp onto these two here, and obviously get that bolted in, so that's in there, because that's the fiddliest bit to get in. And obviously I want to try and get that in there first, because when you look under here, you've obviously got a lot more room to feed it through without the crankshaft being in here. So that's going to be the next job, I think. Get that in and carry on from there. I'll come back to you in a minute. Rightio, as you can see there now, I've got the front engine plate on there. It's only held on with 3 studs and nuts. All these other holes that you can see here are for the cover here. This cover, you can see it's the same shape, and they obviously all go through that cover and in through this. So at the moment all we need is those 3 bolts. That bolts it in place. Now I finally found the engine lube that I was looking for. Pt6 Ultra Slick engine lube. I ordered this from America ages ago, just because I saw loads of different YouTubers using it, and I thought, well, it's good enough for them, it's good enough for me. So we're going to use that obviously on all the mating surfaces now. I'm going to get this some of it on this camshaft. We'll get this threaded back through again, and then we can get the clamp on there bolted up. So let's get that done and I'll come back to you in a sec. Rightio, as you would have seen from that bit of time lapse, we've now got the plate on, the camshaft in, and I've got the lube. I've put lube down these oil holes as well as on the actual bearings themselves. And as you can probably hear now, well, you can't hear it hardly, that is really, really smooth. So I reckon we should be okay with that. It should be good. You can see that there's enough clearance in the end there for the end cap to go on. In fact, when you look at it, if you look at the bottom here, you can see all the lube going around with it, obviously giving it some protection for the first start when it eventually gets to that stage. So that is really good. So I'm chuffed with that. Right, so next job now, we're going to get the new main bearings in, which are these ones here. We've got obviously a new set of those. We'll lay those in, get them so they're tapped in with these little bits in the grooves here, and then we can lay the camshaft in. In fact, I'm just looking at that. I wonder whether I should have put the crankshaft in first, but I think I might be able to thread it through there. If not, I might have to take that back off again. Didn't think of that. Okay, we'll obviously work that one out in a second. I'll have a look at that because I didn't realise that the crankshaft had to go in before that plate, which is a shame. But looking at it, it does. So I may have to buzz that back off quickly. It won't take a second, and get the crankshaft in. Now we know that the camshaft's in there in the correct position, it's rotating fine. I don't mind taking that back off again, but I wanted to get it in the right position first to obviously make sure that everything was hunky-dory on that side of things. So I'll have a little look at this crankshaft and I'll come back to you in a second. Right, yep, I'm a prize idiot. I put that plate on and obviously couldn't get the crankshaft in. So we took that back off again now. And that's okay, the camshaft's still in there. I've just wiped these, obviously these apertures out. I didn't want to have any lube underneath them because obviously I don't want the new bearings to obviously be able to spin at all, you know. So these, get them lined up on one side level, they should just slot in like that. Now what is not worrying as such is the holes don't actually line up bang on with the oil ways. I don't know whether they're any different. That one lines up okay. I mean, I'm assuming that once as long as they're in line as far as there's a hole there and the oil can get through, it shouldn't matter too much. There's not a lot I can do about that because obviously this has got this groove in which obviously lines up there and you can't put it anywhere else, you know. So I'm assuming that that's how it goes. Now it's only that one that seems to be a lot off. These two, the middle one and the back one, seem absolutely fine. So I'm not sure why that one doesn't line up so well. I don't think there's any different ones. They're all the holes are in the same places, so they can't be any different. Yeah, so it's just, I think it's just how it is, to be honest with you. I mean, there is a hole there, so it can get through, so it's not going to get starved of oil. Hopefully. So that's those three bottom shells in. So I guess now it's just a case of putting some lube on them and then dropping the camshaft on and seeing what happens. There's crankshaft, I should say, not camshaft. Make sure there's a nice bit of gunk all around there. It's quite sticky, this lube, which is obviously good because you want it to stay where you put it until the engine is running and it's got oil pressure. So it's obviously designed with that in mind, you know. So it seems like good stuff though. I've not used it before, so it's I don't know. Again, if I'm doing it wrong, bear with me because I've not done this before. So right, that's those three main bearings lubed up. You can see in there, got lube on all of those. I'm going to give this crankshaft a little wipe because it has been sitting on this bench for an age. I cleaned it anyway, but it's just got a bit of dust on it, so I'm going to put that in the engine. Get that all cleaned up. Quick wipe over, I'll do it. And then this should just nicely fall into place, hopefully. Like that. Runs nice and smooth, as you'd expect from new bearings. I'm going to put a little bit more jollop on here because you can never have too much. Won't hurt it. Well, it's even better now. I've just put some more of that stuff on there. That's superb. Really good. So these main bearing caps have got shims in one end, which, as you can see from the shape of that there, that fits in like that. And they're marked on the top. That one says F for front, and you've got C for centre, and obviously B for back. So I'm going to get the old shells taken out of these, and obviously give these a bit of a clean up inside, get the new shells in, and then we should be able to drop them on and clamp it down with any luck. I'll come back to you when I've done a little bit of prep work on these, because obviously that's boring for you to watch. I don't want you to watch that, sit there and be more bored than you already are, because I know there's about 500 of you out there that are sitting there falling asleep right now. So come back to you in a sec. Rightio, as you can see there now, I've got those cleaned up. New bearings are pushed in. There's no oil holes on this side. They just go to nothing, so same as the old ones did. So those are ready to get some lubrication on them, and then we can drop them in, and hopefully it'll all be marvellous. Right, I've got to remember on this front one to put these spacers in, which actually, thinking about it, I haven't put the bottom one in yet, so let's do that before I forget. We've got, trying to work out which way round they went. Let's just lift this back out again. It's stuck in there with the lubrication. Right, stay there. We've got to put one in down there like that. Pretty sure the grooves face outwards, because otherwise this writing would have worn off the other side. It's got little tiny engraving on the back of that, and you can see that in the camera. But there's another one that goes in there as well. In fact, I'm going to put a little bit of lube on these to actually stick them in place, because otherwise they'll end up falling out when I try to put the crankshaft back in. Not lubing them for any reason other than to stick them in there. Right, that's those two stuck in. So now that can go back in, like so. Hopefully without knocking those spacers out. Why is that not fitting? You're all shouting at me now saying, you should be doing it this way. I was like, yeah, I probably should, but I don't know what I'm doing, so I'm learning as I go. They're all pushed back down again. That middle one popped up in the air. I'm hoping that's why I didn't sit down. Right, now one of those has just spun a bit, so let's sort that out before we go any further. Push that down there. Like that, push that one down there like that, and let's see if it still spins. Yes, it does. That's good. It's actually spinning the bearings around because the top cap's not on there yet, so we'll leave that with those in the correct position, and we can get the top cap on there now. Okay. Right, next thing is obviously the same on this top bearing. I'm going to put a little bit of lubrication around here, so we'll glue that on. Not glue it on, but to stick it on while I put it in, like that. Same with the one on the other side. Get that in there. And in theory, that should drop on there. Whoops. Oh, there you go. Put those down there for a minute, otherwise they're going to go flying. Right, come on. Don't mess me about. Might need a little tap, I'm assuming. Get a dead blow hammer so it doesn't damage it. Not sure how tight this should be. It's quite tight. I'm very happy with how tight that is. This is still spinning freely. Why is it not going in? Am I doing something wrong here? Let's have a look before I start mashing 7 bells out of it. Why is it not going straight on? It should just drop on nice and easy. The bearings turn slightly. There we go, let's try that. Obviously I'm quite taking this quite slowly because I don't want to cock it up. Which is highly possible. Right, why is it not just dropping on then? What am I doing wrong? I can only assume it's just a tight fit because it's a new bearing in there. I'm only tapping it gently, I'm not hitting it very hard, so it's definitely the right one, F. And it's still turning freely, so nothing's binding up. So why is it not going on? Right, I'm going to have a little look at this. I don't want to rush it on camera and mess it up, so I'll come back to you when I've worked out what's going on, because I'm not really sure at the moment what's actually happening. Right, coming in, how many of you was shouting at the camera saying, Matt, you're a blithering idiot, and you had the cap on the wrong way? I was having it with the F facing me, but it obviously has to be away from me because otherwise it doesn't fit. So top marks for me for being a total plum. Let's put these back on again and see if it works. Should just slide on just like that. There you go. So that is now on there, as you can see. I'm officially a plank and got it round the wrong way, so at least we worked out what it was and I didn't knock 10 bells out of it and smash things up, because that's usually what happens. So obviously now I know that the letters have got to face that way, if that makes sense. So in theory none of these other ones have got spaces on them, they're just as they are, because obviously the spacers are on the front there which stop the crankshaft from going backwards and forwards, and these should just literally drop on. Any luck, he says. Hang on, hold the line caller. I did find there was a little bit of swarf around the bolts on these, so I'm just going to give them a little clean, because it may be that they're binding up because of that, you see. So let's just make sure. A bit more jollop on there. See if that goes on there now, easy. That's it, that's better. Lovely jubbly. Next one. Again, be liberal with the stuff, because you can never have too much. Don't want it to harm these new bearings. And that one again should just drop on the back. There you go. And that is a rotating crankshaft. Oh, that's lovely and smooth. Lovely and smooth. there's one thing I'm not 100% happy about, and that is one of the little shims on this one. I'll show you, take it off and show you. There's got a bit of a chiv in it, and it's just touching on the edge of that crankshaft, so I don't want that to happen. So I may just, here you can see it in there, look, I'm just going to get a little file on that and file that flat, because otherwise that's going to rub, and obviously that will make a friction, heat, horrendous noise, and result in the engine blowing up. So I'm going to do that. I'll put that back on, and then I'll get these torqued down. Top banana, let's carry on. Rightio, as you can see there now, I've got the nuts and washers on the caps. They are torqued up to what the Haynes said, which is, hang on, I'll tell you, I think it was 23 foot-pounds. Let me just make sure that's right. Hang on, torque settings. Yeah, 23 foot-pounds. I think that's right. Which is 29 newton meters. No, 31 to 33 newton meters. So that's what they're torqued up to. This does rotate nice and smooth, as you can see. It's not mega free, but obviously because everything's new, it's effectively like a new engine again. So it's nice and smooth. There's no tight spots. So that should be lovely jubbly. I'm going to make sure, just go over these again, make sure they are tight, and then we can move on to maybe getting these caps back on here that cover this. Now, one thing also that I did forget when I put that end plate on before is there's a gasket that goes behind here, so we must put that on beforehand, otherwise we're going to have oil everywhere, so that's obviously not a good idea. So let's I'm going to go over these one more time, make sure they're right, and then we'll get these two caps put back on and get this put on the front. I'll come back to you in a second. Rightio, I've checked these nuts on the caps again, and they are torqued to spec. Now actually what I did, I actually loosened them off and then I re-torqued them again. It's actually running a bit freer now, so that's even better. It's obviously bedding in a little bit. It's lovely and smooth, so that's good. Now these two caps, whoops, threw a bolt on the floor, let's pick that up before I lose it, have got two bolts on one of them and one bolt on the other, and I was like, wonder which way they go around. Turns out the one with the one bolt goes at the front, because that is where the cover goes over this, and there's one bolt obviously that is hanging down, so that says that one there, and the two bolts, one goes on the back because it bolts the rear main seal cover on to that, which is those two bottom bolts there. They line up like that. So work that out. So what I'm going to do is clean up these areas here, the four areas. These have got little cork spaces in them. Unfortunately I haven't got new ones of those, but what I'm going to do, I'm going to take them out like that, clean them, and I'm going to put a little bit of RTV inside there, and it also tells you in the Haynes manual to put some around this as well. So that is exactly what I'm going to do, seal those in nice, and once they're in, then we can get that gasket on the front here and get that front engine plate on, and then we can put the bracket back on for the camshaft. So that is the plan. I'm using some panel wipe as usual to degrease this with, because I find it's the best stuff, because obviously that's what it's meant for. So it's meant for body work, but obviously it does a good job on engines too. So you can see there, it cleans up the surfaces really nice, and obviously it allows the RTV to seal properly and not leak. That's the theory anyway. So I'm going to get these other two caps cleaned up and all the little cork gasket bits and whatever else, and I'll come back to you in a second. I'm a numpty again. Just looked in my gasket set and there's a brand new set of those cork gaskets to go on these. So I'm just going to buzz these back off again, put the new gaskets in, the new cork bits in, reseal them on, and then we can carry on. What a numpty, should have checked it first. Rightio, I've redone these again now with the new cork pieces, so that is all good to go. And the next thing I'm going to do, this is the gasket that goes on there like that. Now technically I would assume you don't need to have sealer behind this, but if you know me by now, I'll go a bit belt and braces with stuff, and I want to put a little bead of sealer just around the edge of it to make sure that it's going to be sealed nice, and it'll also stick it to where it's supposed to be for when that metal plate goes on. I may put a bead around this side as well, just so it seals to the plate too, and obviously that will aid in any fixing any leaks that there may be, because I'm assuming there's going to be oil coming through, because this is open here to the main oil bits inside, so this needs to be sealed properly. So that is why I'm doing that, obviously, because I don't want it to be leaking any oil once it's in the engine, once it's in the van. So I'm going to give this a clean up with the old degreaser as usual. We'll get some silicone around it. I'm using this gold, should I just show you? It's called copper silicone, but it's very good for oil, so obviously it's great for things like this because it means it will resist the oil. So let's get this cleaned up and I'll come back to you, or put you on a bit of time lapse. We'll get this sealed round, get the gasket on, and then we can get the plate back on, and then we can get the clamp back in the camshaft, and it should be all lovely and secure then. Let's carry on. Next thing on the list, I think, now this is all, just show you, this is all in there and turning really nice. You can't really see it, I know you can't, but that's all turning really nice. So is this. This is all turning really nice now, nice and smooth. So we need to get the sprocket back on the end of the camshaft. Now I was thinking to myself, how am I going to know where this goes, because it's got a timing mark there, which obviously you have to time it up with. Luckily enough, on the back there's a witness mark which shows where the notch was on the camshaft. So all I've got to do is line that up, and there's only 2 bolts, and it should go on like that, and that will be in the correct position then on the camshaft, hopefully, if I can get it on there. It does push onto a little spline in the middle. May have to give that a little bit of a clean up. It's got a little burr on the edge. Where's that file? There it is. Don't take a lot sometimes, only needs a little tiny bit of metal on there and it'll not go on. Where's my persuader? There we go, that's better. Slightly off. So I'll come work it back off and on, so hopefully it'll go on and off easier now, and I'll get it in the line. Now there's a lock washer, there we go, goes on there nice, it's nice now. There's a lock washer that goes on these 2 bolts on there, which I should have a new one of in my gasket kit, which is this here. So I've got everything in here, including this little bag over here that I found those cork bits in. So I'm going to just check that and make sure. If I haven't got one in here, I think I did actually buy some separately to start with, because I wasn't sure what I'd got. There we go, what's this here? Yeah, there's one in there. So that is that square one there. Show you. And basically what you do, you obviously do the 2 bolts up, and then you just bend the corners of this over to lock it in. Now you don't necessarily need a new one, but I bought a whole gasket set for the whole engine, literally everything, so while I've got it I may as well use it. So yeah, that is going to be the next job. I'm just going to get this bolted on, These have got little shoulder bolts. I'll just thread them in there like that. I need to look up what torque spec these are, and then I'll get these torqued up, and possibly then we might even be able to get the engine timed so that the camshaft and the crankshaft are then moving as one again, which would be great, because then we can get this front cover on then as well. Now the pistons, obviously I've got the new rings for the pistons, but I'll just show you while I'm here. The conrods that I was going to use, bushes in them, are absolutely knackered. So like everything else on this engine, I've got new ones coming. They should be here tomorrow. So I'm going to obviously carry on with all what we can for now, and if we can get this all timed up, that'd be absolutely superb. Then once the bushes come for the pistons, we can make sure the gaps on all the piston rings are right, the new ones. We can change them bushes over, and then we can get the pistons in, and then the bottom end is coming together really well. Then it's nearly complete, hopefully. So I am super chuffed. So I'm going to get these two nuts, or bolts rather, torqued up on this, and then I'm going to have a quick read of the Haynes manual and find out exactly what position these need to be in as far as timing wise, and get it timed up. We've got a brand new timing chain and tensioner to go in it. That's the new chain. The tensioner's in there as well. Yeah, it's got a little plastic pad on them, you see, so you have to make sure that's not missing off your engine, because otherwise it could, or the chain could jump a tooth, or it'll just be really rattly. So obviously I've got a new one of those, so that's superb. So yeah, I'll come back to you in a minute. Righty ho. I did actually lock these bolts on here and then realised I should have done. So the chain has got to obviously be put on before you lock this into position, because you can't obviously stretch the train over with it on there. So I'm going to get the chain on this sprocket. In fact, no, what I'm going to do first, what it is, the timing has got to be this mark on this big sprocket has got to line up with the wood rough key on the crank. So basically I'm going to do that now. Then I'm going to take it, I'm going to put the bolts in so that it's in the correct position, because otherwise if I try and do it without the bolts in, it's not going to work. It's a bit of a faff, but obviously I'd rather get it right than not. So they haven't got to be tight, I just want to get them so that the shoulders of the bolts are in the sprocket so that I can turn it and get it accurate. So the wood rough key is here at the moment. I need to make that so that it lines up, which it does. So now I'm going to try and undo these nuts without moving the thing round. That makes sense. I mean, I can line it back up again after, but trying to aid it as best I can. Right, so that is in the correct position as we speak. So I'll take that off gently. Come on. There we go. Get the chain on. I don't think this has got a direction on this chain. I can't see anything on it that says any particular direction, so we're going to go with it as it is. And then obviously we need to hook that over that to then get it in line, and hopefully it'll line up. And if it doesn't, we'll have to obviously move it around a notch. That's not in line at the moment, so we'll take that off, move it over a notch, try it again. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put that on there, I'm going to get a straight edge on it, just make sure that it's dead in line. Yep, that is bang on in line. So that is in the correct position where we are now, which is absolutely superb. So now I can do what I did a minute ago and lock these bolts on, and then in theory our engine's timed up, which seems a bit too easy really, but I ain't complaining. So let's do these up. And a little nip. And what we do now before I lock those tabs is I'll turn it round. Look at that, it's turning as an assembly. Woohoo! That is mega. We'll go round a couple of times. The timing mark's coming back round now. I'm going to go around once more, and if that is still in the correct position, then we know that we are in time. Pardon the expression, not lost in time. And I would say that that is spot on. Where's my straight edge? Let's just check it again. Yeah, middle of that wood rough key is pointing the pointer on there, so that is absolutely superb. So now we've got our engine timed up, which means we can get those locked in. We need to get the cover, get the new tensioner on the cover, get that put on with a new gasket and sealer, and then that is this end done. Getting excited now. I hope I'm not jumping the gun as far as I don't think I am, because I can put the pistons in obviously once this is all on there, because none of this has got to change once the pistons are on. The pistons going from the top, and then we can just rotate this round. I'm well chuffed with how smooth that is. That is so smooth. It's really good. I'm well chuffed with that. And I'll keep saying the same thing over and over again, but it's getting exciting. I might have a van with an engine. Woo! Right, I'll come back to you when I've worked out what I'm going to do next. Right, next job, before we do anything else, we are going to, in fact that one's a bit chived up. I might have a look at the other cover I've got off the other engine and see if it's any better. And if it is, we'll use that one. But we need to change this front crank seal. I've got a new one in the kit. Seems daft not to while we're here. Now I know from when we did Dan's, we actually had to take this cover off and press that out from the back because it was in there so tight. So I'm going to do the same thing while I've got this cover off. Obviously it makes things a lot easier. I can put it in the press over there and get that out. So I'm going to have a look at the other cover, see which one's best, and then get that pushed in. Right, I've gone back to the cover I was going to use. I've given it a little sand down with the DA. Doesn't look so bad now. The other one that I started cleaning up had a load of corrosion up this corner. It was really thin, so I'm not going to use that. I've used the press and I've put a new seal in there, as you can see. Lovely jubbly. We've got the new guide to go in. That literally just goes on there, wrong way around, like that. And then when you put this cover on the engine, come on, that pushes up against the chain and obviously tensions it up. So let me just give this a little tap on because it's not all the way home. Like that. And it's not spring loaded, but it is spring loaded because it pushes against the side of the case. And then I've locked these two tabs again, just so you know, and this is all rotating really smooth. I'm really very pleased with that, considering I've never done it before. And now that can go on there. Take that bolt out, put that in there so I wouldn't lose it. That can go on now. If we can get the tension of the right side of the chain like that, there we go. And then we just got to in fact what I'm going to do before I do that, I'm going to put a little bit of the old lubrication on this chain, because obviously I don't want that to be dry. I'm going to put a bit on that tensioner as well, because obviously that's going to be rubbing on the chain and we don't want it to be rubbing the plastic away, because it's only plastic guide. So put a bit on there like that. And before I go any further, I've just thought again, I need to get the gasket onto this. I'll get the new gasket out of that kit, get some RTV on here, RTV it to the casing, and then we can stick that on there, and that is this end of the engine done, and I am well happy. Woohoo! Rightio, as you can see there, that is the front crankcase on, or engine case on now I should say. Got one bolt, which is a nut and bolt, I've got to sort out there. I've misplaced that. Well, I've got the bolt, but the nut that fits it I haven't got, so got to sort that out. But obviously all the others are done up tight, so that is absolutely fine. That is on there now. This is the rear main plate, which the seal in it actually looks really good and really pliable. So I am in two minds whether to change it, but obviously I have got a new one in this kit, which is this one here. Now, this being an original, I don't know if it's any better than the new one or not. They're both as flexible as each other. Sometimes you find with the original stuff that it is actually better quality than the new stuff. That's all I'm thinking. But then having said that, this is best part of 30 years old, so, or 20, at least 25 years old. So I'm thinking to myself, do I change it just because I'm in here and I don't want it to leak? I don't know what to do on that side of things at the moment, so I probably will end up changing it, but a bit loath to. But anyway, so that's that. I've got to sort that out, and once we've done that, we can then put the engine block aside for the minute, because unfortunately I was out today and I missed the delivery for the small end bushes, which is a shame. But we can obviously put this aside and get the pistons all cleaned up, ready to go, and we can measure all the rings as well, make sure that they're a correct tolerance and don't need any filing or anything like that. Now, as you can see by this piston, the old rings in these ones that we're using are well and truly stuck in there, so we've got to try and work those out. This bottom one is fairly loose, this oil scraper ring. You can see it doesn't matter if I break these because I've got new ones, so we can obviously get something in there and lever that out. But these top two, you can see the gap in them is quite small and they are proper jammed in there, so it's going to take a little while to work those out. And obviously we'll clean up all the top of the piston and the grooves to make sure that the new ones go in and everything is nice and clean and free. So that is going to be the next couple of jobs. Let's carry on. Rightio, as you can see there now, I've got the rear main cover on as well. I went with the new seal in the end just because I've got it and I thought, well, might as well. As you can see, it's all rotating nicely. I've got the front crank pulley on as well, so it still allows me to rotate the engine over, and that is lovely and smooth and nice. So we should be all good to go, I think, on this side of things. Next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to set this aside, get the pistons that we're going to be using on the bench, and get the old rings out and give them a good clean up, and then hopefully by the time we've done that we'll have the new bushes, which, as I say, I did unfortunately miss in the post today, but they're at the local sorting office, so I've got to go and get them in the morning. So I'll have them in the morning, and then we can get those put in. So let's carry on and get that done. Rightio, as you can see, we've got two sets of pistons here. This set over here are out of the engine at the hole in the block, and this set here are out of the block that we are actually using. Now, as I said previously, only one size of piston ring is available, and it's the height of the oil scraper ring that is different, and these pistons which are out of the block we're using are the ones that we need. So as you can see, I've already taken this one apart. There's the conrod, the lower big end bearing, the upper bush, which I've got new ones of those coming. Obviously that's the piston itself. I've got two circlips which hold this to the gudgeon pin, and the gudgeon pin on these, I can just about feel a little step in them, but on the ones on the other engine they're pretty much totally smooth. So we are going to be using, bear with me on this, the gudgeon pins from the block with the hole, the piston tops from the block we're using, and I've not decided which conrods yet because it'd be either or, because they both need the big ends and the small end bushes replacing. So we need to basically split these up so we've got the 4 piston tops off. Then we can clean up all the grooves and get all these old piston rings out. We can then take those ones apart and get the good gudgeon pins out of those ones to use with these tops, and then we can decide which con rods we're going to be using. I know it's a bit complicated and this, that and the other, but that's the best way I can see of doing it at the moment. So that is what I'm going to do. I'm going to take these apart, get these cleaned up, and go from there. Right then, it is at this point in the video where I lost the will to live. As you would have seen from that last bit of video, when I was trying to remove the piston ring out of this piston, the side completely gave up, and whether it was a weak casting or whether it was just so corroded in there that it didn't like it, and I wasn't hitting it very hard, I was literally just tapping it with a pick, and that happened. And obviously this is the only set of pistons I had with the right size oil recess in them, so I was at my wit's end at that point in time, which is why I didn't do any more filming. Now, as luck would have it, quite close to me, about 20 minutes away, there is a place called Dinky Cars. Big shout out to Steve at Dinky Cars. He is a Reliant specialist. I didn't realise how in-depth his inventory was, but I knew he did bits and bobs, but I wasn't sure obviously what he did. So I gave him a call, and luckily he managed to get me a single piston. It is a used one, but it is in absolutely fine condition, and it is going to save the engine build, so that is absolutely superb. So we have got the part that I cocked up on to still complete the engine. Now obviously that's going to be in the next video now, because this video is getting quite long, and obviously I've run out of time basically, so it's taken me all this time just to get what we've done, you know. So if you do like what you see, make sure you hit that subscribe button down there. I do really appreciate it, everyone who has subscribed. The rate is going up slowly but surely, so that is absolutely great. I have got Instagram, MEC_TEC 1985, and I have got Facebook, MEC-TEC, for little sneak peeks during the week of what I'm up to. And all that's left for me to say is, if you want to join me soon for more automotive adventures, I'll see you again next time. Cheers guys.